Want to know how to both learn about the things around you and contribute to science? Well, I have a presentation for you. This is Science and You, a Thistle Violet short lecture. So, you want to learn about the natural world, but where do you start? How can you use various free resources without requiring a degree or extensive studying to actually learn about the things around you? Thankfully, in today's modern age, there are many free tools that let you learn about the natural world. What is citizen science? Well, taken from Wikipedia, citizen science is research conducted with participation from the general public or amateur researchers or participants for science, social science, and many other disciplines. Essentially, citizen science is people who are not official scientists helping out in conducting things like surveys of wildlife or cataloging different types of things. This is in many fields, not just biology. So why citizen science? It can be really helpful for people like me. I have used citizen science data in my own research. Many times, research is held back by one factor: money. It costs a lot of money to do things like collect globally, to visit places, to take samples. So having people in those areas who already live there have a fun, free way to help out, it benefits both the scientists because we get that data, as well as the person watching. I have compiled a list of some free resources that you all probably can use. I made sure to get mostly global resources, but in terms of general identification, for example, what if you see a grasshopper today and you want to figure out what that grasshopper is? Like, what species is it? What does it eat? How long does it live? Is it good for your garden or should you squish it? Well, my favorite app to use for something like that is iNaturalist. It is free. It is fantastic. It uses some really cool models and code that's way more complicated than anything I can understand, but it will help you identify what species you see. It keeps track of all the species you see, and you can contribute to a huge database for scientists. This database is the most commonly used citizen science image database to my knowledge. All you have to have is a phone with a camera, and you take a picture of that species, say your location, and it will do this cool thing. So you take the picture, you share the location, and then the image is uploaded, where scientists and common, local amateur enthusiasts can try to identify it. The app will give a suggestion as to what it thinks you saw. It can get really good, accurate species level estimates, or sometimes they'll be a bit more vague, especially if the image is blurry. So that's where the other people come in. They can look at these images and verify. They can say whether they agree or disagree, and eventually, ideally, the species is discovered. Like, you know exactly what you saw. You have multiple people telling you, yep, that's what you saw. And then, when the image goes through that process, it can be used for science. For example, I just looked up the common eastern bumblebee because it is very common in the United States, and it's fuzzy, it's cute, it's adorable. This is an example of what iNaturalist looks like when you want to see a distribution. For example, this is where the common eastern bumblebee is. The orange is all the pictures. Behind me, you can actually now see all of the different pictures people uploaded. This is a slightly older screenshot, but these are all just different pictures that different people have added to the website. It's super cool, super useful, has all the different observations, identifiers, observers. You can do this to track different species and where they're going, where they are, because it has a timestamp. It's great for tracking migrations. All right, and on to another version of this app. It's called Seek. It is very similar to iNaturalist. It's kind of gamifies iNaturalist. The only difference is you have a live ID. So you use your camera and it's kind of like Pokemon Go, where you can move the camera and the environment is tracked to help identify the species. And globally used. Everywhere from the poles to the equator, iNaturalist and Seek can be used. Birds. I love birds. I talk a lot about birds. They're really cool. Very cool animals. A lot of people think so, so there's some apps specifically for birds. eBird is the most famous. It is a free app where you essentially record a life list. Something kind of fun about birders is we get competitive. Yes, I get competitive over looking at ducks. Basically, you want to see how many species you can find, and you can track them with this app, as well as report how many birds you saw, the kind of birds you saw, where you saw them, and different conditions. This data is then used to monitor many species by scientists. Also a great one for tracking bird migration, for tracking nest conditions, because sometimes you could add little fun facts about the birds you see, and a scientist may just use that data. It's really cool. Staring at ducks is fun, and ponds. So cute. We also have Merlin, which is, in my opinion, a fantastic feat of technology. You essentially put the app on, and it'll identify the bird. You can do this by sight and go through a little checklist, which is what is shown on the screen. You do size, the color, the behavior, and it's pretty accurate. Gives you a bunch of different pictures. But where this app really shines is you can do it by sound. You just open the microphone in the app, let it listen, and it'll tell you what birds are singing in your area. And it's pretty accurate. I am in shock by how good it is, even when there's many birds screaming in the distance. It is shockingly good. It's just, if you hear a weird bird making noises, you can figure it out. Although sometimes you think it's a weird bird and it's actually a squirrel, because squirrels make really weird noises. In terms of birds also, this is unfortunately a United States specific, but this is BirdCast. This is from September 30th specifically, and if I scoot myself over, you can see what the colors mean. This is a prediction heat map of bird migration. I've talked a little bit about it, but as you probably know, birds migrate to the poles from the equator area, back and forth every year. And if you want to know how many birds are passing through your area, you can, if you're in the US, use this map. It's super cool, and it is also a good reminder to turn off the lights inside at night, especially if you have a bunch of windows, because that unfortunately does increase the chance of them hitting a window. Bird collisions are unfortunately a problem. Birds are not very good at seeing glass. They're not very talented at seeing it. A lot of bird information, if you're just curious about general bird facts, highly suggest checking out the website for Cornell or All About Birds. They're the same thing, essentially. A lot of very interesting bird science comes out of them, and I just think they're neat. I also found this recently of a cool way to find more opportunities for just more local groups. This is BirdLife. They have a bunch of different partners across the globe because unfortunately I personally am not as familiar with different local organizations for areas outside the US. If you go to BirdLife, they can help you find more local groups through navigating the website. This is especially important because the greatest diversity of birds, along with most other creatures, isn't in the US. It's typically in the tropics, and there's so many cool organizations in the tropics too, if you want to look at birds there. What's better than birds? There's only one thing better than birds. Bugs. You see a cool bug? You want to ID that bug? You just don't feel like opening iNaturalist or Seek? Well, if you're in the US or Canada, BugGuide.net. Even if you're not in the US or Canada, I suggest you just go on this website. It is a lovely website. It is one of my favorite websites. It's mostly amateurs identifying bugs, but they're not amateurs, honestly. They're very good. It's sponsored by Iowa State University's entomology department, so they've got good backing. Here's what the site looks like. It's kind of retro. It's very cute and silly. I like bugs. I spend too much time on BugGuide. I really need to start studying bugs more instead of just talking about them. This is also a quick small list. If you're interested in teaching someone else about bugs, the Royal Entomological Society has a really nice listing of different education activities and guides to make these activities for a variety of ages. Everything from little kids to adults. I thought it was pretty cool. I actually used one of them for some kids that I was helping out an activity with. Plants. Not as cool as bugs, but still pretty cool. I'm not as familiar with plants outside of iNaturalist and Seek, but I did find Plantix, which is a super cool app that's specifically for agriculture. So what if you want to get involved in a specific project? You don't care about just IDing something or keeping a list of what you see, but you actually really want to get into science. Maybe you want to pursue a career later in science, maybe you just are bored. Well, in the United States at least, these are some ways that you can find these projects. citizenscience.gov and SciStarter, US specific, but they are ways to help find projects local to you for all types of science. You just search your location and what you're interested in doing, and there might be a project out there. A lot of the tasks are taking pictures of things like local wildlife or rocks. It's not just biology, there's all sorts of science here. Does anyone have any questions? If I put bug in mouth, is that okay? Depends on the bug. What kind of bug are we talking? A dead cricket with seasoning? Yes. A live bee? No. This is my thank you to all of you over on Twitch for the 50 followers. I really appreciate it. It means so much to me that not only do you like to listen to me yap about video games, but you also will tolerate the occasional scientific yap too. Thanks again, and I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. Bye!